Welcome to the winter webinar series. And starting off, it'll be Mastering the Blue Bin Recycling, what goes in and what stays out. I want to thank you for joining us to celebrate America Recycles Day, hence my hat, and joining myself and Erica. So I am Rhonda Mace. I do all of the school outreach for Chittenden Solid Waste District. And Erica, you can introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Erica and I work for Lamoille Regional Solid Waste and I work as an outreach coordinator. So I do outreach for both businesses, schools, and community groups.
Fantastic. So as solid waste districts, we are tasked to find fun and fantastical things to do with all the stuff that people no longer want or need in our regions. There's many renditions of it throughout Vermont. And we are just two of them of many. So we want to thank you guys for all of the questions you included in your registration. They truly did help us shape tonight's class. We may not get to answer all of them. I think we'll get to most of them, but fret not. You can always send us an email or you can ask later on during the Q&A if we haven't answered it. And so we'll kick started in here. So this is our agenda for the evening. We have a lot packed into 30 minutes because we want to allow that 15 extra minutes for any questions and answers. Along the way, at the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A box. So if along the way that you have any questions while we're rolling through the first 30 minutes, please pop them in there. Eric and I will be switching off and monitoring that, asking questions live, asking questions on the fly, or answering them. We're not asking them. Let's hope we're not asking them. If you guys have suggestions like, hey, this is how I clean out my peanut butter jars to make sure they're clean for the recycle bin, please pop those in too. We're always looking for tips and tricks. We certainly don't have all of the answers. We will be sending a follow-up email early next week. In that email, you will have a link to the resource page that we've come up with, to the recording, because it is being recorded tonight and it'll be posted on YouTube. We'll be asking for some feedback. We're always looking at how we can improve. And then we will also include a link for the next episode of the winter webinar series, which is December 12th at 6 o'clock. So now sit back and enjoy the show.
So recycling, whether you're taking a cardboard box and turning it back into a cardboard box or downcycling a plastic bottle and turning it into something like a fleece, all of those processes reduce the strain on natural resources. So for example, trees and forests that store tons of carbon that are used to make paper, or sand that's used to make glass, or oil that's used to make virgin plastic, and then bauxite, the rock or the ore that's used to make aluminum, virgin aluminum products. So in addition to saving natural resources, recycling also requires a ton less energy. So using the classic example of aluminum, which is sort of a recycling no-brainer, it's estimated that recycled aluminum uses like 4 to 5% of the energy needed to make aluminum, virgin aluminum, which is pretty significant and saves like 20 times the emissions. If you've never heard of the book Project Drawdown, super recommend it. It's an awesome compilation of information from scientists around the world. And they estimate that between the years 2020 and 2050, the behavior of recycling alone will reduce CO2 emissions by like 5 to 6 gigatons, which is equivalent to taking over 1 billion cars off the road for 1 year. Additionally, recycling also saves space in landfills. So we have one operating landfill in the state of Vermont. It's about 129 acres and recently had a 50-acre expansion project a few years ago. In 2023, we sent over 400,000 tons of trash there, which is equivalent to about just under 3,000 adult blue whales, which have bones that are similar in density to us. So that's a lot of trash, and they're the largest mammal on Earth. And it's estimated we have like 18 years of space yet left. So it's critical that we send trash and only trash that can go there, not stuff that can be recycled. And then last but not least, recycling creates tons of jobs. So the MRF is estimated, or the material recycling facility, which we're going to talk about, makes an average of like 0.5 to 10 jobs per 1,000 tons of waste sorted, compared to a landfill, which contributes like 0.1 to, or just 0.1 jobs per 1,000 tons of waste sorted. So that's pretty significant. And that doesn't include the manufacturing companies that rely on human power when they take in those recycled goods to make new goods.
Do that, yeah. So you might be asking yourself, what makes something recyclable? That was a question, like why can some things be recycled and others can't? Well, there are a couple of drivers. This is not the end of the list of the drivers, but it is some of the top four that we could come up with. So first, technology. The technology must exist in order to sort and recycle the materials. Otherwise, it can't happen. One great example is people are often like, I don't know why we can't accept black plastic. Well, actually, the technology that is in current MRFs can't actually detect the black plastic. So it can't even detect it to sort it out. And at some MRFs, like the one in Williston, where materials are actually hand sorted and not by technology, the sorters do not have the time to sit and read like what kind of plastic each black plastic container is. So therefore not accepted. The buyer, there must be a buyer, meaning there must be a market for this stuff. We actually require 3 stable markets for every material that we accept. And that's because if one market goes south, we've got some backups on the list. So might be that we can only find one market for a material, so we can't accept it for recycling, because if that one goes under, we're stuck with all of that material. Thirdly, the economics have to work for the processors. As an example, styrofoam, super light. I think it's like 98% air. It is not economical to throw that in a tractor trailer truck and ship that someplace for recycling, even if there was more than one market or more than one buyer for it, which there typically isn't. Very hard to recycle styrofoam. And then lastly, the demand. And this is where we, the people, all of us, our whole community, can make the biggest difference. All right. So we, the people, have to be buying stuff made out of recycled material. The easiest way to start, check your paper products. Look for paper towels, toilet paper, napkins that are made out of 100% or even 50% recycled paper, or even your office paper. And this could be at work and at home. Because if we, the people, aren't buying recycled stuff made out of recycled materials, recycling isn't going to be nearly as strong as it can be.
So for those of you that are already recycling, hopefully all of you, if you're not aware, all of your materials go to what's called a materials recycling facility. And this is stuff that's commingled, or the single stream recycling, or blue bin recycling. So in the state of Vermont, we have 2. There's one down in Rutland and one in Williston that's owned by Rhonda's team, Chinden Solid Waste District, and operated by Casella. So this also includes not only folks that are going to transfer stations and dropping off their single stream materials, this includes curbside pickup as well. All these materials go to these facilities.
Yeah, and as an example, at CSWD's MRF in Williston last year, we processed around 80 million pounds of recyclables. And to give you kind of an idea of the breakdown of those materials, in general, 78% cardboard and paper, 6% plastic containers, 13% is glass, and 3% is metal bottles and cans. So, and that's all by weight. So just to let you know, we sort into 9 different categories, and we're going to get into those categories later on when we dive deep into the world of recycling. But up next is kind of a view into the MRF in Williston, into CSWD's MRF. It's a 6-minute video just to give you guys an idea of what we accept and the process it goes through to get sorted out. And I think once you see it, you'll understand why there are rules to recycling.
Your blue bin. Think it's just another place to put your household waste? Think again. The things you put in this blue bin are actually valuable resources that are about to embark on an amazing journey we call recycling. This plastic bottle, when it falls into the bin, it's about to take a magic carpet ride to a new life. It could become another bottle or something like this fleece. This is the first stop on the journey, CSWD's Materials Recovery Facility, or MRF for short. Thanks to you, more than 80 million pounds of recyclables are processed in this building each year. They go through a wild series of spinning discs, speeding conveyor belts, whirling magnets. It's sort of like a Willy Wonka factory for recyclables. When they come out the other side, they're shipped off to market to be made into new products. Trucks come into this building. We call it the tip floor. That's because this is where trucks literally tip their recyclables out onto the floor. It can look like quite a mess, but that's only because the MRF hasn't worked its magic yet. Another machine, a skid steer or a loader, pushes it all onto the first conveyor belt, where it heads up the hill and into the pre-sort room. The pre-sort room is where the first line of workers take off bags of shredded paper for special handling. They also take out items that made it into your bin by mistake, like styrofoam, plastic bags, and hazardous materials. It takes concentration and quick hands, but it's important to get these contaminants out now. Contaminants lower the value of recyclables, and they can get caught into the machinery or even injure workers. Cardboard is the first material to be sorted. A screening machine with spinning discs pulls off big pieces of cardboard while everything else drops through it onto a conveyor below. After the cardboard, glass is next. Your recyclables go through something called a bottle breaker, which does exactly what it sounds like. It crushes glass into small pieces. That crushed glass falls through a screen onto its own special conveyor. The rest of your recyclables are still on the move. They're heading for 2 more sorting screens. We call paper, like newspaper and office paper, fibers. These items float on top of the screens, while containers, like plastic bottles and metal cans, bounce down the hill. The fibers head for a conveyor where workers pull out boxboard and cardboard for separate recycling, and they pull off any trash that might have sneaked by the first steps. The plastic and metal containers are headed for a special machine called a ballistic screen, whose rows of paddle arms weed out any leftover fibers and drop the containers onto their own conveyor. The workers on the next line are looking for plastic containers like jugs, tubs, and bottles. These plastics may end up as plastic or composite lumber, bottle caps, or even fleece sweaters. Each worker on this line is looking for a different type of plastic to sort, and each type of plastic needs to be kept separate. That's because every type of plastic is different. Companies that buy the kind of plastic used in water and soda bottles, for example, don't want other plastics. The color of the plastic can also make a difference. A colorless plastic milk jug is worth more because it can be made into more things than one that has been colored orange or blue. Next up, metal. Ferrous metals, or metals with iron in them, are in for a fun ride as they pass under a high-powered electromagnet, which lifts them off the conveyor and drops them down a chute into a bunker below. The last sorter on the line is looking for aluminum. Aluminum cans, aluminum pie pans, big balls of aluminum foil, and those products will be recycled into just about any other product you can think of made of aluminum. Aluminum siding, engine parts, or another aluminum can. After all the paper, plastics, and metal are sorted out, they're each baled into giant cubes that weigh up to 1,700 pounds apiece. These bales will be loaded onto tractor-trailer trucks and sold to companies that will recycle them into new products. These bales are worth a lot of money. Some are worth $30, some are worth more than $700. Each year, the MRF sells an average of $4 million worth of recyclables. But wait, We're not done yet. Remember that bottle breaker? Well, that broken glass took an exciting trip of its own past vacuums, fans, and magnets that picked out any paper, plastic, or metal bits that may have gotten mixed in. The glass then goes through a spinning cylinder called a trommel, and the end product is used in road building projects and in drainage projects. That's the end of this part of the amazing journey we call recycling. If you were a newspaper or a plastic bottle, your journey would have taken you only a half an hour from door to door. If you ever have a
So I hope that video was an eye-opener for you guys, and just a little look into how things move through the sorting system. So now Erica is gonna tell us all about where all that stuff, once it's baled up, where does it go and what does it get made into?
Yeah, so as was mentioned in the video, and like Rhonda just said, after the materials have been sorted and baled, Casella, the company that operates the MRF, both in Rutland and at CSWD in Williston, they usually store them for a bit, and then they're sold on the open market in the US and Canada to companies that recycle them. So you may have heard a bit about China's national sword policy. We super encourage you to look into that, because even before that policy, a lot of these markets existed within domestic borders. So you can go ahead and crush those recycling isn't happening myths. So in a nutshell, Casella is a publicly traded company, but they can't necessarily share where exactly things are going because it's sort of trade secret and proprietary knowledge. That's a big word. But this is what we can share with you. And the markets are always changing. They're very competitive. But in a nutshell, cardboard usually goes to Canada and it gets repulped back into cardboard for the most part, or the wavy board between cardboard. Mixed paper usually gets mixed into higher fiber content pulp and made back into either cardboard or back into like tissue paper, like this stuff, for example. And I'll show you when we go through the demo. Aluminum heads to New York, and that gets made right back into cans, or it gets made into metal for auto parts. HDPE or type 2 plastic, if it's a clear, like a milk jug, that usually gets made right back into containers. Or if it's a colored container, like a Tide detergent container, it'll usually get made into HDPE culverts. So those big black tubes you've probably seen on the side of the roads during like flooding, when they fixed up culverts and stuff, those are usually made from a colored post-consumer recycled type 2 plastic. Tin and steel heads to New York and becomes new cans, and also metals for like electronics and also auto parts. Type 1 plastic can get turned into anything from like fleece sweaters to carpets and rugs, also new bottles, or it can be made into stuff like the fluff inside sleeping bags or jackets. And then type 5 plastic, the polypropylene, that's usually sent to Alabama and made into stuff like paint cans. So next time you go into a Lowe's or a Home Depot, check out the bottom of a paint can. It might be made from post-consumer type 5 plastic. And then last but not least, glass. Glass is tough because it's super heavy to move and expensive because of that. It's actually paid to get rid of. And some of it stays pretty close to home. So a lot of it goes to Colchester to a quarry and gets mixed with quarry stone that's used for like embedded road applications or utility applications. Or the Rutland MRF usually sends it up by train to Canada to get made into fiberglass, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome sauce. All right, so now we're gonna dive deep into the rules of recycling. Now, guys, we do not make up rules because we like to make up rules for recycling. I myself, as some people on this webinar can attest, not a rule follower, but these rules I beg of you to follow. And not only that, but take it back out into your community. All right, so there are 6 general rules to recycling that go with every material anything that you're putting into the blue bin. First rule is it has to be made out of paper, cardboard, or a single-use, one-time use container made out of plastic, glass, or metal. If it doesn't meet that criteria, it should not go into the blue bin. Number 2, size does matter, and nothing smaller than a squirrel's head or 2 inches by 2 inches should go into the blue bin. And that is because it falls through and it gets all into our glass. And when we're trying to recycle glass, or the folks are trying to use glass for either fiberglass Or for sub-base for roads, they want just glass. They don't want those bits and bobs all stuck in there. Also, don't put anything over 2 feet into your bin. It just makes processing a whole lot harder. Item number 3, it must be, or rule number 3, it must be clean. No food, no drink. If you can tell what was in your container, that container is too dirty. What I do, a little tip is if I have, say, like a yogurt, I just leave it in my sink. And as I'm washing my hands or rinsing stuff out, it just kind of gets rinsed out in the sink. And then I give it a little shake and I pop it into the blue bin. All right. Rule number 4, everything going into the blue bin must be made out of one material type, meaning it has to be all paper, all glass, all metal, or all plastic, period. If it's mixed up like your juice, like juice cartons are paper and plastic or cardboard and plastic stuck together, and we can't get them apart, that means they have to go in the trash, not the blue bin. Rule number 5, and no empty hazardous waste containers, please. Even if you rinse them out, none in the blue bin. So finish up whatever, cleaner you're using, cap it, pop it into the trash. That keeps the people picking up your recycling safe, and it keeps those people at the MRF where they're sorting it out safe. So thank you. And last but not least, nothing bagged. Please do not put your recycling in bags. Maybe you came from a community before moving here in Vermont that bagged it, but please, no bags at all. No flip-floppy plastic allowed into the blue bin whatsoever. All right, so next, Miss Erica is gonna go over kind of the general what goes in.
Yeah, so as Rhonda mentioned in some of those rules, she brought up a lot of materials. So they pretty much break down into 4 categories. Got metals, plastics, paper and cardboard, and glass. And we're actually going to go live and we're going to show you some examples of materials that both do and do not go in single stream recycling.
Fantastic. All right, let me stop sharing this actually. So there was a question out there of not understanding what a single-use container is. That is like something like that you were meant to use once and get rid of. So an example is like this yogurt container here that you probably can't see super well, but made to use once and then chuck it, get rid of it, hopefully in the recycle bin. Whereas this water bottle here, although it's metal, is made to be used over and over again. Your food storage containers meant to be used over and over again, therefore not allowed in the recycle bin as of right now. And that might change in the future, but right now we just can't accept it. We don't have a way of sorting it out. So hopefully that clears that up for you. And if it doesn't, please ask again. All right, Erica, take it away.
All right, so starting off with metals, you got aluminum and tin or tin-coated steel, right? So this is a big old wad of aluminum foil, follows the 2x2 rule, and you can toss it right in your bin, right? Then we got classic aluminum can that can go right in. Ferrous metals, right? So this is a steel can of beans for camping. Another can of SpaghettiOs. I'm 29. I still eat these sometimes. And then metal caps. So this one can be tricky sometimes. So we have ones that are bigger than 2 inches. Those can go in because the magnet will pick these up, and that's okay. If they're smaller than 2 inches, no, don't put those in. Put those in scrap metal if you can, because those will fall down and contaminate glass recycling and then requires a whole lot of work to clean up.
And by scrap,
right.
Well, that just means like you're putting it in a separate bucket to take it to be recycled elsewhere where they take like non-metal cans or whatever that you can't put into the blue bin.
Yeah. And then please, no batteries. Battery fires are huge issues at MRFs and even transfer stations. The Rutland MRF, I've heard, has had the fire department at their place on average every 2 months or so. No batteries, separate recycling for batteries. Then on to paper. Good old Breyer's ice cream. This is a no-no. This is layered paper, not designed to go in your bin. They used to layer them with wax, and now they use a whole lot of plastics and stuff. No good. And if you're not sure if a paper is layered, pinch it, tear it. Those are good ways to tell whether there's like plasticky stuff in between. That's a good way to tell. Kitty litter box has lots of layers, also a no-go. Pizza boxes can go in, even if they've had grease or cheese on them. Here's a pizza box, but no liner. Grease and cheese are okay. They can be separated out in the paper refolding process. And then my last example is good old Amazon shipping bag. So even though this has that puffy stuff in there, it actually melts underwater. These can go in. You might want to pull off your label. And then there's a really cool campaign called howtorecycle.info. You can see it kind of right here. That's an awesome website, great resource. I think it's a national campaign. You do always want to check with your local guidelines, but this is saying pretty clearly that it can be recycled as a paper bag. So that's good to go in.
And I have yet to run across a material where howtorecycle.info was incorrect for our for Vermont. So yeah, but yeah, you can always check with your solid waste management people in your area. All right, so on to glass and plastic. I know there's a lot of questions about plastic, so I'm going to do that one last. Glass is pretty easy. What can go in the bin? Bottles and jars. All right. So if it's a bottle or a jar, you can pop it right into the blue bin. All right. If it is a jar with, again, a metal lid or even a plastic lid, all right, so you can take the lid off and you can put the glass jar right into the recycle bin. If the lid is bigger than 2 inches, then you can put it in also into the blue bin. And if it's smaller than 2 inches, then I would put it in a separate bucket. At my house, I have like a little 2-gallon bucket that says scrap metal on it. And I actually just put all my lids in there just to be safe. If you're not sure what 2 inches is, I might recommend making a little diagram on your recycle bin. So in schools, I use these little stickers that are about 2 inches big, all right, or about the size of a squirrel's hat. So you can draw out a grid of 2 inches on your recycle bin, and then you can put your item over it. If it covers the entirety of that 2 square inch, that means it is big enough to go into the bin. So that's like an easy way to deal with that. Now, what can't go in, that's glass, is drinking glasses. Drinking glasses are tempered, so there's stuff added to it. And remember, one of the general rules to recycling, it has to be all glass. And because they add stuff to drinking glasses, that means they cannot be accepted in the blue bin. Same with mirrors or even like window glass. So stick to bottles and jars. You'll be right on the way there. Now, plastics. Big hot topic, man. There were so many questions about plastics. Let's start with what can go in. All right. So, as you guys may have noticed, there are little numbers on plastic. All right. You don't see those numbers anywhere else but on plastics. So on the bottom of your, and sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. Oh, that's not too bad. On the bottom of your plastic containers, you will often see like a triangle with a number in it. That number is just telling you what type of plastic it is. Different types of plastic act differently, as you learned in the video. What is truly recyclable is number 1 plastic, number 2, and type number 5. My first graders always say 1, 2, 5, keep the earth alive, which kind of sticks in your head. It sounds silly, but it works. So you can continue to put 6s and 7s into the bin. We just want you to understand that they are actually not going to get recycled. They are going to get landfilled, and that's because there's nothing we can do. Somebody had asked earlier about compostable stuff. Those are typically number 7. And so if it's like compostable plastic or even the paper, do not put it into the recycle bin because it is not real plastic. All right, it is plant plastic, and you will see it has a number 7 on it. And so it is not recyclable at all. And we here in Chittenden County anyway, don't accept it in our food scraps either. So that can just go right into the trash, at least here in Chittenden County. So we want to see your number one plastics, all drink bottles, pop them in there. We want to see your number twos, milk jugs, laundry detergent jugs. All right. We want to see your number fives, yogurt, butter, sour cream tubs. I always say it is bottles, jugs, and tubs. All right. Go in there. And that will usually cover your 1, 2, and 5. All right. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see black plastic. And again, it's because we can't pick it up. And it often goes. Plus, I just learned there's stuff added to this to make it flame retardant. And so the plastic recyclers don't want mixed up stuff. So you can chuck that right into the trash. Number 6, plastic. Again, some of these little yogurts, single-use yogurts come in 6s. Maybe one way you guys can make a difference is look for yogurts in number 5s, all right? And so buy your yogurt that is in number 5 type plastic, which then can be recycled. But you can chuck number 6s in the trash. Please, 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 to keep everybody safe. Again, no hazardous waste, all right? So no oil containers, motor oil containers, all right? And definitely no cleaners, especially if they say caution danger, warning poison, or flammable. Please cap them and chuck them into the trash. No flip-floppy plastic, even if it has a number on it, because that gets all tangled up into our equipment and makes an already super hard and dangerous job more dangerous for those guys that are doing the hard work of sorting out our recycling. And again, check your sizes. I'll tell you, Recycle Rhonda makes big mistakes. So a couple of years ago, a 5-year-old pointed out, Recycle Rhonda, this is not big enough to go in the recycle bin. And then he was like, look, it's smaller than a squirrel's head because I can still see the sticker. 5-year-old school and Recycle Rhonda. So please do check the sizes. It does make a difference. It makes the glass so much cleaner if we keep all those bits and bobs out of the recycle bin. All right.
Rhonda, sorry, speaking of bits and bobs, we had some questions about plastic lids on or off the tubs and jugs.
You can leave your plastic lids on the tubs and jugs. That's fantastic because they're both plastic. And that's perfectly fine. Where it gets complicated is with glass. When you have like a plastic lid or a metal lid, I would take that off. And then based on the size, I usually throw all of my plastic lids away that are on glass jars. And then again, the metal ones, I just toss right into scrap metal. So there's no mistaking a size wise. Any other questions?
Yeah, there was one about if the plastic bottle's big enough, but the lid is not. That's a good one.
Yeah, so again, you can tighten the lid down on the bottle, on the body. And what's going to happen is when it gets compacted, most likely what's going to blow out is going to be the bottom and not the lid. So you can tighten it down and then it'll go to the recycler. One of the cool things is that with drink bottles especially, they will shred the whole thing. And even though the cap is a different kind of plastic, they shred it up. And because those types of plastics act differently, the bottle plastic, number 1, will sink to the bottom in water. And the cap, which is usually a 2 or a 4, will float on the top and they'll skim the top off, sell that number 2 or number 4 plastic, and then get that recycled to somebody else and then continue on with their number 1 plastic. So it's kind of cool. So yeah, with the bottles, tighten down that lid, pop the whole kit and caboodle into the recycle bin.
All right. We did have one more question for plastic medication bottles. I assume they mean prescription meds bottles. Again, it's got to follow the 2x2 rule.
Yeah, and sadly, most of them do not. I would check with your pharmacy if they have a take back program. And if they don't, talk to the pharmacy because we, the people, are the ones that can make a difference if we start pushing and demanding. I noticed that Coca-Cola is starting to make their soda bottles out of 100% recycled plastic, which is awesome sauce. But they're not doing it necessarily out of the kindness of their own heart. They're doing it because we, the people, the consumers, are making a demand that they be more sustainable. And that is one way they can be more sustainable. So I'm super psyched about it. So the more pressure we keep on people, on companies, the more we will see change. And the better we'll see the recycling system, not just here in Vermont, but throughout the United States. That's my belief anyway. All right, so guys, we've got a little trivia for you. You guys ready? All right, so I'm gonna pop some trivia up here, and then we will go to straight up Q&A. So you guys ready? Here we go. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. All right, and if you can't see it, pop it into the Q&A. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know what it looks like on your end because I can't see anything. And I think all 4 questions are posted at one fell swoop, which is kind of strange. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but um can you guys see them? Because I don't see anybody. Oh, there we go.
Cool. Okay.
All
I was gonna
right.
say, hit the react button if you can see them.
Fantastic. Awesome sauce. We'll just give it another like 30 seconds or so. It's kind of testing how good we were at at showing you guys what goes in, what stays out, why we have rules, and we're not just mean. All right. So I'm just as people are answering. Oh, hang on. Yeah. All right. Thanks for participating, guys. This makes it so much more fun. All right. So I'm going to give it like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you tell I've been working with elementary school kids all week long? All right, and the poll. And I'm going to share these results. All right. Again, I don't know what they look like on your end, but 100% of the people answered true on that. When we buy things made out of recycled material, it strengthens the recycling system. All right. The second one was, which of the following are accepted in the recycle bin? So the only thing that was acceptable, things that were acceptable was hard plastic bottles, jugs, and tubs, and metal bottles and cans. Milk and juice cartons. So that's the ones that are like the gable top ones. They are made out of paper and plastic. And even if they say recycle me, don't believe everything that you read. So please do put those in the trash. We cannot recycle them because they got 2 different materials stuck together. And plastic bags with a recycle symbol cannot go in the blue bin. You can, however, collect those bags if they're 2s and 4s, take them back to the grocery store or another retail store that collects them, and they will get recycled, just not in the blue bin. In Vermont, all recycling is landfilled. Recycling is broken. We got that message across, Erica. Super excited about that. 100% said false. It is not broken. And some places in the United States, it has faltered a bit. But I mean, that's again, we've got a strong system up here, and the stronger that we can show that it works, that love will spread throughout the United States. Woohoo. And then lastly, size matters in recycling. Which of the following applies? It must be bigger than a squirrel's head or 2 inches by 2 inches. True. And it must be smaller than 2 feet, which is true. Some cardboard can be 4 feet, depending on if you're using a dumpster. It can be up to 4 feet, but in general, please don't put ginormous things in there because it just will not sort properly. But I am glad that nobody answered size doesn't matter or so long as it fits. So thank you guys for taking that. Appreciate it. So now we have got the next, what is that, 6 minutes?
Yeah.
We didn't answer.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. We've been practicing this and we've been going way over. So it was get it all worked out. So if we did not answer your questions that you had when you originally registered, please pop those in the Q&A. And we're open for business.
All right. Oh, we got one here. Various takeout containers.
Yeah.
So again, do you want to hit it, Rhonda? Or
Yeah.
okay. So again, depends on the material. So is it made of one material? If it's paper, if it's got food stains and grease, no good. And then if it's plastic, again, follow your resin codes. I wish I had an example to show you, but I just recently learned about mineral embedded polypropylene stuff. So yeah, learn your resin codes and remember 1s, 2s, 5s, keep the earth alive. Was that it? Yeah, cool. All right.
It's catchy. It's catchy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, takeout containers can be confusing, but yeah, give them a rinse. If it's 1, 2, and 5, pop it into the bin. And if it's a 6 or 7, you can pop it in there. Just know that it's not going to get recycled. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so there's somebody that said the Humane Society takes prescription pill bottles. There you go. Now they're just gonna have
Cool.
influx of them, but that's awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that is great.
Fantastic. Do you know if they reuse them? That's an anonymous attendee, but that would be even better because although recycling's awesome, reducing and reusing a lot more important. Again, you can tell that I've been working with little kids this week, but any other questions out there?
All right.
Ooh, from Amy McJewelpants. Let's see, I know her. She asked, can we junk mail be recycled? It can. It can be recycled. You don't even have to take the little windows out of things. As long as like if you get like those little fake like plastic credit cards in there, take those things out. I've noticed that they're making them out of paper because I think it's probably cheaper that way anyway. But yeah, you can put your junk mail in there. And in our resource list, we will actually send you a link that you can sign up to stop junk mail and stop all of those catalogs that you might be getting and you don't want anymore. And although I have to go in once a year and renew it, once it sets in, then that junk mail really, really settles down. So I highly recommend it, but that will be in the resource list. So thanks, Amy, for that. All right. So Nicole's got a question. Is there any recycling or waste related legislation currently introduced in Vermont that we can support? That's a great question. And I'm not sure.
We had Shannon from A&R pop on and send a great response to that. So
Oh,
folks,
fantastic.
yeah.
All right. So Shannon says from DEC says there are currently no bills in the legislature. However, we are currently in between sessions, but I am not aware of any legislation on the horizon. Thank you so much, Shannon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, there was something about plant pots. Yeah. So let me just get rid of it so I know which ones we answered here. So Penny's asking, and now there are brown plant containers. I can't remember the number, but if it's 1, 2, or 5, can they be recycled? They can. The
Yep.
only thing that we don't want in there that's a color is black plastic. That's it. But you can also there's also some take back programs too. Some nurseries will take the little planters back. I know those like really crinkly ones are polystyrene. They're number 6 plastic. So I've been doing this long enough that I can like squeeze the plastic and tell you, well, I can tell you whether it's number 6 or not. That I can do. But yeah, so check with yeah, check the number on the bottom. If it's 1, 2, or 5, yeah, pop it into the bin. I believe that Wolcott has its own recycling program. Is it the same as?
Oh, no, well, that's you folks are part of Lamoille Solid Waste District. So our closest transfer station would be, oh man, brain. Morrisville, more open Saturdays. So we do have some separate streams for some stuff at some of our transfer stations, primarily Stowe. Cardboard and glass, we separate out that doesn't go to the MRF. But yes, you are part of Lamoille Solid Waste District. And if you have any questions, we could chat later. But yeah. Let's see.
Right. Beth says larger cottage cheese and yogurt containers are 100% recyclable. Yes, they are. All right. Oh, so anonymous to say, I believe the Humane Society reuses the prescription pill bottles. That is awesome because again, reuse is more exciting and better for the environment than recycling. So
Yeah, that's great.
that is awesome.
Here's a good one. Chinese takeout, the black bottom container, not recyclable, but the top clear part, yes, that can go in.
Yep, as long as
Assuming it's a 1, 2, or 5.
yeah. So if a 6 or 7, why can we put it in if it's not recycled? I'm just saying that if you don't want to look at the numbers, you can continue to put it in. It doesn't mess up our system. It just isn't going to get recycled. For some people, it's just easier to be like, oh, it's a container. It's bigger than a squirrel's head and it's all plastic. I'm gonna pop it in the bin. Just trying to make it as easy as possible for people. That's why I put that, that's why we said that. Just to try to make it easier for those that might not be concerned about the numbers. Or if you can't find a number on it. So all packaging for food that goes in the fridge or freezer cannot be recycled. Right. Great question. So if food touches it directly, that means it's lined with plastic and it cannot be recycled. So it's paper or cardboard and plastic. If it's like a little dinner that slides in, it has its own little dish and slides into the packaging or into the cardboard box, then that box is not lined with plastic and can go in. I know it seems confusing, but I always say if it's a carton or a cardboard and your food is touching it, automatically toss it into the trash because that means it's lined with plastic or something, but mostly plastic.
Do we have to put covers on yogurt containers? That's a good question. Yeah, keep the covers on. Then again, I mean, if it's over 2 inches and you wanted to take it off, I think sometimes at the MRF, really light stuff like that can act like paper. So correct me if I'm wrong, Rhonda, but if you remember from the video, there's those screens that filter out the paper. Sometimes light stuff like that. It might be best to keep your yogurt containers on.
Yes. What about packaging for food that doesn't have to be refrigerated? I'm not sure I know what you mean. Again, if the food's directly touching it, I'd say no. Like raisin boxes, those are a good example, especially because like the kids always have raisin boxes. Usually there's food stuck to them or the raisins are all stuck to them. And so I always tell the kids to put them in the trash. One, they might be lined with plastic. I don't really know. I never really tested it out, but they're usually like all sticky. So again, for ease, if food is touching it, put it into the trash. If it's paper or cardboard. Obviously, if it's like plastic or metal or glass, give it a rinse and then chuck it into the bin. For peanut butter jars, a lot of people always have this question. It can be hard to get the peanut butter out. I usually let mine sit in the sink. Well, there's two ways. Let it sit in the sink overnight and then put the lid on it and shake the heck out of it. It gets a good workout in the morning, gets the blood going. And then get out the leftover peanut butter. Or like my friend has a dog who won't shut up in the car, so we always just give him all of these peanut butter containers, and he just sits and licks them all out, and it keeps him quiet while we're getting to our hiking spot. Works out well there. All right, so I want to keep everybody's time. I'm sorry, we are at like 6:50. Let me see. What about the peel off tops?
Ooh.
You have to go. Feel free to go. All right, that's fine. And Dan, nobody's going to be offended. We're going to roll through the rest of these questions real quick. But do know, look for an email from us. It's going to come out through Zoom, actually, in the next couple of days, early next week, with all of the links to the resource list, to this recording. Our email address and contact information is in there. So if you have any leftover questions or something pops up over the weekend, you could always reach out to either one of us. We're more than happy to answer your questions. So thank you for joining us. We're going to answer these questions, but I want to say thanks to those that have to run along. I appreciate it. I can make aluminum foil into 2-inch ball easily, but it may be a very airy ball. Is that okay, or does it need to be a firm ball? Penny, that's a fantastic question.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Well, Erica, what do you think?
I think it's okay to be airy because as long as it doesn't pass through the blades, right? As things go through the MRF.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't fall through. But then again, then you get into like how heavy is an aluminum.
Yeah.
Right?
And I was thinking more of it like going into like a compactor. And
yeah,
when it's smushed together, it's gonna swish down.
Gotcha, yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking. So I would say make it tight, but either way,
squeeze it.
yes, really. I would squish it down, but I don't know how it works. I don't think we ever tested that out. But great question.
That's a good one. What about the peel off tops on large cat food cans? They are sharp. I love this question. So one thing you can do is, unfortunately, this is like a full can of tuna, but if this were empty, what you can do is put this thing in, and then I hope you can see my screen, but squish the edges real good. And then what it'll do is it'll lock in that peely part so that it won't fall off.
All right, I was gonna try to see if I had a soup can, but I don't. But yeah, that's what I do too. I put the lid inside and I squish it shut. Or if you do collect scrap metal, like if you do have a separate little metal bucket that you take to get recycled at the scrap metal place, then you can pop all your lids in there because people are not going to be handling that by hand. So that's typically what I do, but it's because I have easy access to getting scrap metal recycled. So, but yeah, superb question. 2 large cardboard boxes still have to be cut into small pieces. Technically, cardboard can't be more than 4 feet long. And it's just because it gets bungled up on all of those conveyor belts in the MRF. And that is the only reason. I usually try to cut mine down to no longer than 2 feet by 2 feet is really what I try to keep it to. But technically 4 foot, nothing longer than 4. Otherwise, it just gets all tangled up and it causes like some jam ups. I've seen some jam ups at the MRF when I've been giving tours.
I think you said pizza boxes could have grease, etc. That's a good question. So yes, there was a study done by a company called Smurf at Westrock. Used to be known as Westrock formerly, but they did some studies and they found that grease and cheese don't mess up the paper repulping process. Because what happens is everything goes into this big vat, gets mixed together and made back into paper pulp. And then sometimes they'll add like heavy chemicals to it and stuff. But that's very different from something like a layered ice cream container that's full of, was it polyethylene, the coating? The plastic layers in a coated paper product are very different. You could have more plastic to paper, and then it just, as far as I understand, it can be a nightmare for the paper repulping process.
All right, so I was just trying to write a question back, but I think I'll just answer it live now. My tofu container tonight says number 5, but food is in it. So yeah, so I run into that too because the tofu kind of gets stuck in the little grooves. Because I know, and I've given many tours at our MRF, I actually just let it sit in my sink, and as I'm washing my hands or the dishes, let the water go in it, and then I just kind of give it a really quick little scrub with a little scrub brush, and then dump the water out, and then shake it out and put it into the bin. I do try to get as much of that little like tofu stuck in that little grooves as possible. Yeah, just because I know that people are handling this with their hands, and I don't want them to handle like moldy food. But you know, use your best judgment on that. Use your best judgment. Let's see here. Pizza boxes, we got that one answered. I live in South Burlington and bring my prescription pill bottles to the Chittenden County Humane Society. Sweet. Thank you guys. That's really awesome. Rinsed and dried plastic food containers are recyclable, like the tofu one mentioned. True. Yes. Thank you, Shannon. What is an example of a fridge or frozen food that touches the cardboard packaging? Ice cream. Easiest one. So that would be the one that's touching it. Does aluminum foil need to be clean? Yes. Everything going into the blue bin must be free of drink and food. Please and thank you.
Some people, so for that question, I know some people will toss like if you got space in a dishwasher, you can toss in some foil like on the top rack or, yeah.
It's another one that I just leave in the bottom of my sink, and while I'm washing my hands or cooking, it just gets the water on it, and then I just pop top lids. All right, you're welcome. Various takeout containers. Can I just jump on boxes to crush versus cut? Yes. As long as they are flat. The thing is, the reason we ask for flattened cardboard is, again, like in that video, it is sorted by machines, and the flatter it is, the more likely it's going to get sorted with the cardboard and with the flat paper, because it's basically 2D flat paper and cardboard versus 3D all of the containers. And that is how mechanically or physically it is sorted out by machines. And that's why we asked to flatten the paper and then leave the cans and leave the containers whole. But if you can get it pretty flat by jumping on it, you can get out some frustration and flatten it. Kudos, hot dog.
Multitasking.
Shrink sleeve labels. Oh, well, good, Emily Johnston. That's fantastic. Way to go above and beyond, but I wouldn't expect anything less from you. So yes, you can leave all of the little labels on your drink bottles. You can go above and beyond. Soup cans are one that I cut the paper labels off because that is what I've been trained to do for years. Just a habit to me, but you can leave those labels on. Thanks for that question. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Plastic holding batteries. I don't know what that is.
Oh, like the hard plastic in a like an appliance holding the battery. If that's what you mean, then no hard durable plastics that are not single use packaging, right?
And for plastic, if it's not a bottle, jug, or tub, I would really say no, not right now. No, and probably not ever. Just because we don't know what kind of plastic that is. We wouldn't even know where to sort it. But great question. These are all great questions. I've garbage pickup by Casella. I noticed many recycle bins out on our road are breaking all of the rules. How can Casella get those people to follow the rules? Yeah, I mean, and this is where we as a group can really help by spreading the word, and not like, I would say go out and be like, no, you're doing it wrong. But definitely just being like, hey, did you know that this isn't? So Casella, I mean, it depends on what neighborhood you're living in or what area you're living in. I can only speak personally to Chittenden County, because that's where I work and where, I know the most of what's going on here. But they will say something if it's lots of wrong stuff in there, because they're actually, depending on if it's a recycle bin, when they go drop their stuff off at the MRF to get sorted out, there is actually a potential for them to get a fine if it's over, I think it's over 10% of their, whatever they're dropping off, 10% visually looking at it is not recyclable. They can get fines for that. So it is in their best interest to educate. But you could also, send a little note, maybe hang a little flyer or something on the door, on the bin, something in that nature. But yeah, for residents, that's like always a challenge even for us as solid waste people. It's really hard. So our best bet is you guys going back out into your neighborhood and spreading the love of recycling right. Oh, I love it. Thumbs coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna do 2 more questions because I've got a scrambezel as well. But is it okay to put metal lids that have been taken off with a can opener into recycling, or is this too dangerous for the recycling people? Great question. I would say it's almost too dangerous to put in solo. You can put it back in the can and squish the top of the can shut, put it all in, or again, collect those sharp lids in a separate container with your little bits and bobs of metal to take back to get recycled at a drop-off center or a transfer station or wherever you can do scrap metal. Depends on your area. All right. Do you want to take a question?
Yeah, let me scroll down here.
Sorry, I wasn't trying. I was just like on a roll.
No. It's okay. So brown plastic cocoa container says number 2. Yeah, assuming it's all plastic, all one material. And if it's type 2 plastic, that can go in your bin. And then I think that's it.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you guys
Cool.
for getting in there and spending an extra 15 learning it. If again you have questions, our contact information will be in the follow-up email. I'll look for that sometime early next week, Monday or Tuesday. And I hope that you guys have a great America Recycles Day tomorrow. and spread the word. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate all your hard work.
Yes, happy recycling.